1. I work at a large grocery chain in the US. We're undergoing massive renovations, so instead of being open 24/7, we now close at 11 p.m. For the protection of our overnight cashier, we don't leave until all customers have exited the store. My boyfriend and I were closing together after our manager left sick. We began announcements at 10:30 and then every 5 minutes starting at 10:40. We stopped entry at 10:55 and then focused on sweeping the store for stragglers. I made the first closed announcement at 10:59. At 11:01, my boyfriend calls up to tell me there's 2 guys with huge carts headed to the checkout. I made a second announcement and then notice a group of 3 girls walking around the soda aisle. They ignore the announcement and continue shopping. So I page my boyfriend to that aisle and make a third closed announcement, which yet again they ignore. At this point I walk over and politely tell them that the store is closed. They ignore me and continue shopping. "The store is closed. You need to start making your way to the checkout," says my boyfriend. "We're almost done. We just need a few more things." "The store is closed. You cannot continue shopping. If you would like to come back and finish shopping at 6 a.m., I'd be happy to set your cart aside. But you have to go now." They try to walk down the aisle towards the back of the store, but I block them. At this point, I'm just fuming. Finally, they concede and begin walking towards U-Scan. You'd think I'd shoved a twig up their asses because they were walking so slow. Then they stood at self-checkout and said they were waiting for their friend who ran back to grab some more stuff. Our overnight tells them that they need to start checking out now, and they do. 2 girls keep running back and forth, adding more stuff to the order. After they've done this 3 times, I tell them that they are done shopping. If they run back again, I will void the transaction and they can come back at 6 a.m.
"Go home, sis. Stop telling us what to do."
"None of us can go home until you leave."
"I don't care."
Then one of the girls starts dancing while making eye contact with me, and they're laughing. They were making comments about how I should just go home then. Then they ask to get a Swisher sweet. To which I respond, "No, the store is closed." The whole time, the other 2 guys were profusely apologizing for being in the store and not knowing the hours. They were 100% fine because they were being extremely polite. Finally, everyone finishes checking out at the same time, and we all leave at 11:20. By the time we scraped our windshields and drove home, it was 11:35. 2. I love fish and spend most of my time at my local fish shop during my school break, and I till now still enjoy going there. However, I remember my first "I don't work here" lady moment at that place. I'm a big fan of fish keeping, and that day when I was going to the fish shop, I wore a shirt with the words "Aquascape Champions" on it. Big mistake. When I was at the fish shop, just checking out the fish and looking at new products, I heard a Karen screaming from the other end of the shop. The shop was pretty big, about the size of your average McDonald's outlet, I assume, to help her. Now, I just assumed Karen was calling for co-workers, so I ignored and continued with what I was doing. A few minutes went by, and she was still calling for help. I rolled my eyes and went to the shop owner, who was my friend. Lo and behold, he was serving another customer, so, like a great person I am, I decided to tend to the Karen. Already a little annoyed, as I did not work there, I just smiled and said, "Hi, can I help you?" The following conversation ensued. "Hi, how can I help you?"
"You, young man, I have been calling for you for a few minutes now."
"Sorry, but you see,
Yes, you guys always have excuses. I don't care, just tell me where's the salt."
"I'll check for you, just wait." As I mentioned, I went to this shop often and knew about everything in it, but they recently got a new section installed, and the section where they normally would place the aquarium salt changed, and I did not know where.
"Oh, come on, what's taking you so long?"
"I'm sorry, I don't think I can help you if you're this impatient."
"Oh, you're not going to do your job?"
Then she started speaking in a language of which the only words I could make out were Tibbet and lazy. "I don't work here, ma'am."
"Do you think I was born yesterday? You're wearing the employee shirt. I want to speak to your manager."
"I have mild social anxiety and I hate confrontation." But I was getting a little pissed that she was this rude to me, so I replied with, "Yes, I do think you were born yesterday." By this time, the store manager was on his way to this Karen.
"Hi, ma'am, what's the problem here?"
"The staff here does not know what the salt is, and said he would not help me."
"He does not work here, ma'am."
Karen was embarrassed and started screaming things like how I was sexually assaulting her with inappropriate jokes. That was when I started noticing customers taping all this. Uh-oh, big no-no. Anyone with a Karen interaction knows that if you videotape the Karen, she will fight you. The Karen was beside the section where they placed the driftwood, so she took a large piece of the driftwood and tried to hit the other customers and me. I got a big hit on the shoulder and it sure hurt. If you didn't know, some driftwood have pieces of wood poking out, and it felt like spikes hitting you. She had a pretty good amount of strength for a Karen her age. If you have gotten hit with a large stick on the shoulder, you would know how painful it is. The store manager and the employees restrained her, and the customer called the cops. It was not a large wound, but it sure hurt for a bit. The wood broke, and she ended up paying my medical fees. The driftwood, spiderwood glued to a dark piece of cholla wood, $100 plus, my medical fees $300 plus, for x-ray and treatment and everything and a fine. 3. I used to work as a cashier at a grocery store during my freshman and sophomore years of college, about 2 years ago now. Every single day was an experience with someone rather unpleasant, but one man in particular stood out above the rest. He was a tall man, middle-aged, and always wore a neck brace, not super important, but might explain why he was grouchy. I always refer to him by this when I retell the story. A little background about me. I was an outstanding cashier, fastest scanner in the West. As cashiers, we're very competitive about our numbers. I also worked as a bagger for 3 years prior, and had been bagging for my mom since I was tall enough to reach the end of the belt. I'm very petite, just shy of 5 foot, and at the time was way thinner than I should have been. This all combined with being super sensitive to any form of criticism from strangers. On to our fairly long story. Me is me, NBM is neck brace man, B a high school bagger. My first interaction with him was awful and left me stunned. We have a little spiel we have to give when greeting a customer and starting a transaction. "Hi, how are you today? Do you have the store VIP card? And is there anything at the bottom of your cart you need help with?" Standard stuff. I'm standing at my register when NBM walks up and starts placing down his items. "Hi, how are?"
123-45,
reading me his phone number. I frantically started typing out his number into the system. I was flustered from being cut off, but it was just another customer. Then I got an error that I didn't put the number in correctly. "I'm sorry, could you please repeat your number?"
"What?" 123-45.
It went through this time, and I scanned all his items as fast as I could, in what I think must have been fear. I bagged them up for him before he even finished his transaction. I told him to have a nice day before he huffed off with his groceries. Rude, but okay. The next time he came in was on a busy Sunday, so I was back to back with customers and in the zone. "Hi, how..."
123-45.
I looked up briefly and frantically typed his number. For whatever reason, I had somewhat remembered it. Probably a fight-or-flight response. I kept my head down through the entire encounter, and again told him to have a nice day.
"You too."
I was shocked. This really took me out of it, but the next customer had really come up. I talked to my coworkers about it a bit afterwards, and they all agreed how he was awful to all of them. It felt a bit weird to me. He came in again about a week later, and this time I saw him and prepared myself. It was strange because it seemed like he looked for me down each lane before walking up. Prepared, I changed my speech. "Your number?" He was the one shocked this time.
123-45.
I started scanning his items in silence when I heard him talk.
"How are you today?"
I'm good, how are you?"
"Fine."
He didn't say anything else, but when I said have a nice day, he again replied,
"You too."
The next few interactions continued on like this, and I saw him about once a week every Saturday. I had his number memorized, and one time, as a joke, read it while I typed it. I got a little chuckle out of him. It got to the point where when I didn't see him, I asked my coworkers if they had. No one even knew who I was talking about. The second to last time I saw him, I had a bagger with me. "Hi, how are you?"
I'm doing well. 123-45.
"That's good to hear." We chatted about some things, though I can't remember what. Usually it was just how work was or my classes. I finished his transaction and began helping the bagger back his groceries. He says to the bagger,
"Can you hurry up? Damn kids are so slow. Have a good day, miss."
"You too?" What an asshole. Well, he's actually really nice. To me. It was at this moment that I realized just what had happened in the past months. He hadn't gotten happier. Nothing with this middle-aged white guy had changed. He just genuinely liked me. Maybe it was as a person. Maybe it was just that I did my job well. Or maybe it was because I treated him like a genuine person. I like to think he only came through my line. I wonder how he must be doing from time to time. If he still looks down the lanes to see if I'm working, or if he found another cashier. I never got to tell him I was leaving, and I look back and wish I could have. I've told this story many times to different people, but on this particular day, I wanted to share it with the world. And if Neckbrace Guy ever hears this, I hope you're doing well, and I want you to know that you made my day a little more bearable whenever you came through. 4. I was at a big orange box store looking to get a full sheet of plywood and have it cut in half for me. They do this at this store. It was early, I like to avoid crowds, and the store was fairly empty. I had grabbed a sheet goods cart on my way in, and knowing how difficult it would be in this store to get someone to help and cut the plywood, I stopped at the cashier at the Lone Pro checkout, no customers in line, and asked if he could send someone over to meet me in the plywood aisle to help me get a sheet and cut it. He looked at me with a very confused look on his face.
Do you have the wood with you?
I look at him with an equally confused look, then look at my empty cart. No, not yet. That's what I need the help with. Can you call the department and have someone meet me at plywood?
But you don't have any wood?
I'm suddenly wondering which one of us was hit on the head and didn't know it. No, again, I need someone to meet me there and help me get the sheet of plywood and cut it for me. The cashier says nothing, just looks confused. Just call over to Lumber, please, and let them know that there is a customer that will meet them in the plywood aisle who's going to need help. I grab my cart and head the short distance to the plywood aisle, leaving a confused cashier in my wake. As I enter the aisle, I see at the other end a man in bright orange arranging some sheet goods. Praise be to God, or so I thought. I wait for him to finish moving some half sheets. Excuse me. Hi, when you're done with this, could you help me load a sheet of plywood onto my cart? I'm also going to need it cut. He turns around, looks embarrassed. I don't actually work here, I just like wearing my orange sweatshirt when I come here. Yes, he actually said that. Oh, I'm so sorry, I knew it was too good to be true. It's okay, yeah, I've been here for 20 minutes now and haven't seen an employee anywhere. I'm gonna need some sheets cut too. He looks around. I think I'm gonna go try find someone who can help us. Good luck with that. Knowing this store, and that I could end up standing there for a long time before any help came, I just said screw it, grabbed my cell phone and called the store.
Front desk, big orange box store. How can I help you?
Yeah, hello. I'm actually in your store in the plywood aisle, and I need someone to help me load a sheet then cut it. Can you send someone over to help me?
Wait, you're actually in this store? Right now?
Yeah, I've been waiting a while, so if you could send someone over, that'd be real nice.
Okay, sure, I'll have someone right there.
Less than a minute later, the guy from Lumber was there, helped me load the sheet I wanted and took it over to the cutting station. In the meanwhile, I saw a nice customer's cart was where he had left it, and I saw him pass the end of the aisle I was on, still looking for help. I waved him down and advised him to get his cart to the cutting station ASAP, before the guy was gone again. Went back over to where my plywood was being cut and let the guy know to wait. Another customer was on his way with some sheets to be cut. No one got cussed out, no one got slapped, and no one got arrested. No one asked to speak to a manager. This time. 5. Okay, so I work at a grocery store where mostly nice elderly folks shop. For some relevant context, I have worked through several changes in management, and even an extensive overhaul when the entire store chain was bought by a larger company. I've had plenty of conversations with customers confused about policy changes, and most of these have been issue-free. We also have a rewards card program that elicits loads of questions and concerns, especially when we change anything. So you can imagine how much I have to memorize just to seem at least competent when explaining these changes to customers. But some of these changes are so old or minuscule that even I don't know about them. Hence this story. This particular story was actually my first memorable retail story. It was during my second year of work, sometime in the middle of summer. I was running the express lane as usual, and it was barely past the halfway mark of my shift. In comes this seemingly sweet old lady. She has me ring up a couple things, makes light conversation, as the slightly sluggish machine works. And all seems well as she swipes her rewards card. I told her the total and savings and awaited her method of payment. She seemed oddly baffled by that part. I asked her what the problem was, and she began to insist that she paid with her card already, plus she wasn't carrying any purse or wallet. That confused me, since the machine hadn't indicated any payment was made, nor had I seen her swipe anything else. So I asked what card she paid with. She showed me her rewards card, which does not have access to money whatsoever. I told her that the card was not a debit card, and that she can't make payments with it, but I can offer to hold her items at the customer service desk while she retrieves her card or cash. As per company policy, we can hold her items for several hours with a suspension ticket. This wasn't an acceptable answer, however. She began semi-angrily ranting to me that this happens every time she comes here. These machines are terrible. These cashiers were terrible. The whole spiel. She demanded to see the, and I quote, highest authority in this store available. I was not about to call the store director over a front-end problem during her lunch break, so I called the front-end manager. By then, I was accumulating a line and having to apologize to everyone behind her for the holdup. At the frickin' express lane. After a short wait, he arrives and I explain the situation to him, and he is thankfully knowledgeable in this problem. Turns out, we actually used to have a program where you could link a debit card with your rewards card and pay like that. But the program had been terminated years before I was even born. No wonder I wasn't able to help her. How this lady hadn't picked up on that fact for multiple years was astonishing, to say the least. After a small exchange with the manager, she agrees to have her items held at the customer service desk, while she goes to retrieve her wallet from her car, all while grumbling under her breath. I didn't see her come back. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, number 87. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Yeah, I was thinking about story number 3 there, with the fellow with the neck brace. I think every store has customers like that. I seem to recall when I worked retail, there were a few customers that, people would always say, oh, they're so moody, they're so grumpy, yet my interactions with them were always perfectly pleasant. I found that would happen with a lot of the Polish customers, and in that case, I could partly put that down to racism, because I did work with a couple of racists, but I think it was also a lack of patience in some people's parts. Whenever someone comes in and they either don't speak the language, or in the case of the people who were coming over to work in the UK, they maybe spoke a minimum, just enough to kind of get by. You give your customer the patience they needed, and generally they weren't that busy, so you'd always take a little more time and treat your customers like human beings. I remember one story. There was this fella come in, and again, it was one of the people who say, oh, he's always so grumpy, but he was always friendly to me, always happy to see me. He'd always try to engage me in conversation, but given that I didn't speak Polish, he didn't really speak English that well, it was a difficult conversation. But he came in, he was looking for something one night, and he didn't know the English word for it. So he tried gesturing. We eventually got the water was involved. There was a bag. And then I realized, oh, right, of course, he wants a bag of ice. Okay. Because that's obvious. That's a popular purchase, of course. Especially when people are buying alcohol to have a drink at night. Especially in summertime. I think it might have been summertime. And we figure out that it's ice. And he asks what the word is. And I tell him it's ice. And I then say to him, what do you call it? And he goes, oh, Lud. I was like, okay, great. So that's fine. I serve him, he goes away. It's a few weeks later, he comes back in again, and he tries to do the mime thing again. I go, Lud? He's like, yes. And the smile on that man's face, you wouldn't have believed. And all it takes is a bit of time, bit of patience, because not everyone's a prick. Although some people definitely are. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.